it's cocktail hour, so rack 'em up. Ooh, mama, it's cocktail hour, so pour it up. Pour it up.
What's up, guys? It's your girl, Zaida Lisa. Welcome to After Hours, our dope, exclusive, real book club. So I know it's been a while, but I am back. And we are reading the book Bling. If you guys have not checked out the previous chapters, please do so. There's a playlist here on my channel called After Hours Book Club. And we are on chapter 15 of the book Bling. This is by Erica Kennedy. It is a very exclusive book, hard to find, so we have been reading it here together. So we're going to get into it. Again, please bear with me. I am reading the book for free. I will stumble. I will probably mess up, but for the most part, your girl's trying to read slow, concise, because I really want you to enjoy the book with me. Okay, so let's start. Chapter 15. Funky Fresh Dressed. Like she had just rung up a bottle of shampoo at Rite Aid, the woman behind the register at Scoop said matter-of-factly, "That will be $7,275. Mimi gasped. Vanessa didn't blink. She slapped Lamont's black Amex onto the counter with authority. You had to be a big spender to get an Amex Centurium card. It was invitation only, a leap up from platinum. For Mimi's style makeover, the ladies had carte blanche for one date only. Vanessa had been acting like a contestant on Supermarket Sweep, racking up as much as she could for Mimi and herself in the allotted time. Per Imani's instructions, Mimi had showed up at the Vanessa Soho apartment at 11 this morning. She was shown in by a meek, broken, English-speaking woman who was holding the hand of the most adorable boy she has ever seen. Miss Vanessa comes soon, the woman told her. Mimi had assured Lamont's sister-in-law would be back from the looks of her son. Probably not. The boy whom the nanny called Pedro grabbed at Mimi's hand as if they were desperate for a playmate and led her to his room. There was a floor-to-ceiling Lion King mural painted around all four walls. Mimi didn't mind the weight because and cute little Pedro crawled all over the rug playing with his truckload of toys. Over an hour later, Vanessa slunk into the room in an oddly glamorous look that answered the question that the average woman asks herself when flipping through Vogue. Who would buy these outrageously priced clothes and put them together in this way? And where would they go looking like that? Vanessa de la Cruz would. To go on a wild shopping spree with her rich brother-in-law's credit card, that too. It was a mild March day, so Mimi wearing jeans and Pumas was perplexed as to why Vanessa was rocking her fall look. On her feet.
Back outside, boys, toting the 70 on the strip, I'm ready to die. Cutting the traction, bet in the corner, bet I make glide.
Brown corduroy hung low from her narrow waist, and the shrunken hot pink turtleneck exposed her supple stomach. She had a Gucci bucket hat sitting high on her head, like she didn't want to mess up her hair, and dark-tinted goggle-sized glasses covering half her face. "I'm ready," was Vanessa's greeting. Pedro ran up to her for a hug, but she just patted him on the head instead. Mimi couldn't get a good look at her with the glasses and that hat, but there was something familiar about her. As they headed down to the Ford Expedition Imani had ordered for them, Vanessa grabbed a short-lived olive green bomber jacket with fur trim and an enormous apple green purse. After settling in, Vanessa removed her shades and hat. Mimi recognized her instantly. It was Vanilla de la Cruz, the model. Mimi had seen her in so many magazines. She was Lamont's sister-in-law. Wow, she gushed. I didn't recognize you at first. Everyone just said Vanessa, Lamont's sister-in-law. I didn't know they meant you. Lamont's sister-in-law, Vanessa repeated, offended at the secondary billing. I always thought you were so gorgeous, Mimi said. Thought Vanessa begged her pardon, or think? Oh yeah, I think you're gorgeous, Mimi corrected herself seriously. This is so exciting. Isn't it? Vanessa agreed, taking a liking to Lamont's new artist instantly. Mimi wasn't sure she can emulate Vanessa's casual chic style, but she wanted to. When Mimi asked where she had gotten all the things she was wearing, Vanessa was happy to oblige with a rundown. Manolo, she said, pointing to the boots. Almost impossible to get, but I'll see what I can do. Pants are Catayoni. Jacket by Marc Jacobs. Sunglasses, Christian Dior. This sweater I got where... Oh, someone sent me this. I forget who. The bag, she said, stroking it more affectionately than she did her own son, is a Hermes Birkin. And the hat is Gucci, Mimi answered. It had logos all over it. She had never heard of any of those other designers except for Christian Dior, and she didn't know he made sunglasses. I love your look. I want to get stuff like that, Mimi bubbled, without any real understanding of how much stuff like that costs. Vanessa smiled appreciatively. De nada, sweetie, Lamont said, to hook you up from head to toe. Mimi had wondered if the saleswoman at Barney's, where they had gone first, was going to accept a credit card from a Spanish woman who was probably not named Lamont Jackson. But it hadn't been a problem, not at Barney's, where they had a lunch at Fred's, nor at Bergdorf's, Prada, Hermes, Manolo Blahnik, Jimmy Choo, Chanel, Roberto Cavalli, the Nike Superstore, the Levi store, Jeffrey International Mix, or Calypso. Vanessa had coordinated their route so they would work their way downtown. Many of the salespeople knew Vanessa and appeared to be the most excited when they saw her coming. They were helpful. She was snippy, but they all seemed to be thrilled just to be in her presence. Vanessa hadn't once looked at the price tag. Mimi had tried on a suede coat at Prada and couldn't find the price tag, so she asked Vanessa in a whisper, so the snooty, hovering saleswoman wouldn't hear. How much is this? Vanessa very loudly replied, we can afford it. At the other stores, she had puttered around looking at things while Vanessa settled the bills. She hadn't realized just how much they were spending until the shocking revelation at Scoop. She felt like putting some of the things back. God, that was a lot of money. Mimi was kicking herself for spending some of her own advance money at Urban Outfitters. But how she was to know Lamont was going to buy her everything she could ever want? Jeans, coats, boots, sneakers, underwears, bags, headscarves, sunglasses, skirts, casual dresses, dressy dresses, socks. Some of the stuff was very sexy. Other things she just didn't consider her style. But Vanessa kept saying, it's a must-have. Lamont was buying her all this stuff and Vanessa approved, so who was she to argue? They walked out of Scoop and Vanessa bumped into a friend heading in. Hey, Nessa, the pretty woman said sweetly, and Vanessa greeted her in an equally pleasant tone. Kendra, this is Mimi, Vanessa said, proudly showing her off beautiful young charge. She's just been signed by Lamont. Kendra was pushing 30 and looked it. She was the kind of woman everyone considered pretty until an exceptionally beautiful woman, someone like Vanessa de la Cruz, walked into the room and made her pale in comparison. Needless to say, Running into Kendra made Vanessa feel just fabulous. "You're a rapper?" Kendra asked, looking Mimi up and down. "No, I sing," Mimi said politely, ignoring the woman's head-to-toe evaluation. "Really?" Kendra said, processing this information. "Lamont is handling singers now?" "She's the first," Vanessa confided, "branching out and all of that. I just had lunch with Mama Jackson," Kendra volunteered, letting Vanessa know she was still somewhat in the mix. "Were you supposed to meet her today?" She knew the answer to that. Mama had bitched about it extensively. "Was I?" Vanessa asked without concern. She had completely forgotten. "I see you two really went crazy today," Kendra noted anxiously, watching the salesman carrying bag after bag out to the car. "Yes," Vanessa signed. "We've been everywhere. So tired. Must dash." She air kissed Kendra and hopped into the car. Mimi obediently followed, forcing a smile at Kendra, who didn't return the favor. Kendra Truesdale pushed clothes along the racks, annoyed by the unexpected encounter. Lamont's new singer looked very young. She had to at least be 10 years younger than Kendra. 18, and she was pretty, beautiful, really. Just the kind of girl Lamont would like. Kendra hated her already. Kendra had once thought Vanessa might be her sister-in-law. Now Vanessa couldn't spend more than a minute to talk to her. "How about a 'Hey Kendra, what you've been up to?' That would have been nice." But she learned not to expect too much from Vanessa. The one was so self-involved. Maybe it was for the best that she hadn't asked. Other than the audition she'd gone on the morning for a Kekpate commercial. Sorry, guys, I don't know what that says. Where she had to say the word diarrhea twice in 6 lines of a copy, in which she probably wouldn't get anyway because she never booked anything. She hadn't been up to much more than talking to nasty anonymous men on the hot calls phone sex line. Since her career, if you could call it that, as an actress was going exactly nowhere, she'd been going to do the phone sex thing. A friend of hers, another out-of-work actress, turned her onto it. And though she hated it, the money was decent. It paid for acting classes and whatnot. The shopping jaunt fell under the category of whatnot. Before pursuing acting in earnest, Kendra had been featured in many high-profile rap videos. Her shapely body, full, natural breasts, voluptuous hips attached to her tiny waist, and an ass that looked like an African sculpture, thick shoulder-length black hair, and dark brown skin that seemed to glow and even in the winter, kept her in high demand on hip-hop video circuits. She was not the stereotypical video hoe. Mind you, those girls' jiggling body parts only made the final cut. Kendra was featured, face and all, as the sexy love interest of Jay-Z, LL, Cool J, Puff Daddy, Snoop Dogg, and Floss, to name but a few. She was the main chick, next to the biggest names in hip-hop. They all tried to run the same lines on her, but she kept it strictly professional. Okay, she F'd Nelly once, but that was all. An appearance in a Floss video was what put her on Lamont's radar. She wasn't clear on why his assistant had summoned her to the office, but it didn't take long for her to figure it out. He asked her where she was from, Naples, Florida, and what her dreams were, to be a serious film actress, and what her favorite movie was, Pretty Woman. He told her he was intrigued by her. He said that he had something special. She had something special. He told her she could do a lot more than just sit next to some rap star and look pretty. Then he suggested they have dinner sometime and took her phone number. She waited for him to call for over 3 weeks. She thought about calling his office. She hadn't gotten his personal number, but decided against it. When he rang, it made her happier than she had been in a long time, even though she didn't think he was all that cute. But he had a way about him that made her palms sweaty. It was definitely the power thing. After they slept together once, he asked her to take an HIV test at his doctor's office because he hated rubbers. It offended her. Did he think because she slept with him after only 3 dates and she appeared in rap videos that she was some kind of slut? But then he said, all cool and collected, "Hey, if you don't want to, don't." And she sensed it as an implied threat, like he had another girl or speed dial who run right over and with her test results in hand if she didn't. She had the test the next day. When it came back negative, Lamont gave her verbal assurance that he was clean. They started doing all kinds of freaky things in bed. 2 weeks into the relationship, he told her the video thing was tacky and said she'd have to move on from that. Lamont almost never made suggestions. He made commands. He got her an agent to set her up for commercial and film auditions, which Kendra felt was a great big step toward her goal of becoming the next Vivica Fox. She and Lamont were together for 2 years, the longest relationship Kendra had ever had. He laced her with money and the hottest clothes. They went on trips to Maui, St. Bart's, Sandro Pay. They took weekend trips to Miami or Atlanta for A-list industry parties, everything first class. Being Lamont's official honey gave her status. When she ran into rappers, those videos she'd appeared in, they treated her with more respect. She even had her picture in the New York Magazine party page, taken at a charity benefit she had gone to with Lamont. Although they didn't list her name in the caption, they called her a friend. Everything seemed to be moving along perfectly. Before Lamont, she was always hustling to get to her next job, to pay bills, dating guys she liked but didn't love, and prone to bouts of depression. During the Lamont phase, she still wasn't working much, but at least she was getting better auditions. She just loved that man to death. And the lifestyle wasn't too hard to love either. It was the happiest she had ever been in her entire life. Then he dumped her. Wham, bam, and that was it. She never saw it coming. "So Kendra's a friend of yours?" Mimi asked the driver. Made his way to the Malia Mills store. "Not really," Vanessa said lightly. When Vanessa opened her mouth, it was hard to tell if she was going to speak or yawn. "You don't like her?" "She's Lamont's ex," Vanessa reluctantly revealed. One day, Lamont was all into Kendra, and the next day she was gone. Vanessa had never gotten the full story, nor she particularly cared. She learned to keep out of Lamont's business. Staying on his good side meant she got little treats, like today. "She wasn't very friendly," Mimi pressed. "She was nice enough," Vanessa said cautiously. "To you." "Everyone is to my face," Vanessa said bluntly. She had no close friends. They all become catty sooner or later. "Sweetie, you have to understand that everyone wants Lamont's attention. Now that you're his pet project, you're getting more attention than anyone." "Pet project?" Mimi did not like the sound of that. "You know what I mean," Vanessa said, tiring of the conversation. "He's putting a lot of energy into launching your career. People can get jealous." "So Kendra is jealous of me because I'm signed to his label?" Mimi asked, trying to understand. "He's like my boss." "Yes, but you're pretty and you're a female, and she's jealous of that, I'm sure. I heard she was devastated when he dumped her. She wouldn't even leave her apartment for weeks." Vanessa pushed the lock of hair behind her ear. "If I were as fat as her, I'd be depressed too." After a beat, during which Mimi wondered if they were still talking about the same person, she said, "She's not fat." "She has a fat aura," Vanessa said. It's only a matter of time. Mimi caught herself staring at Vanessa as she was about to turn away because it was rude, but Vanessa just sat there comfortably looking straight ahead. She was obviously a person who had grown accustomed to being stared at and enjoyed it. All day, Mimi had marveled at how perfect Vanessa's skin was. Did she have to go to a dermatologist and get those peels like Mimi had been getting? Vanessa's hair was too shiny and bouncy. And every time they went into a different store, the lighting would pick up all the different shades of brown woven into the long strands. Was that natural? In profile, Vanessa's nose had the perfect slope, and Mimi could see how far her eyelashes fanned out. And whenever Vanessa walked by, you'd get a sweet whiff of her perfume. After being out all day, you can still smell the scent. It never faded. Now standing 10 inches away from Vanessa, Mimi felt like she was looking at an airbrushed picture of her in a magazine. And somewhere within the magazine, a perfume strip was open. But Vanessa was too bitchy to everyone she had encountered, and Mimi wondered if maybe she had PMS or something. Mimi assumed the only reason she had been spared was because she had come with Lamont's stamp of approval. Or maybe Vanessa actually did like her. Vanessa was gorgeous, rich, and she had everything anyone could ask for, including an adorable, healthy baby. What on earth does she have to be so cranky about, Mimi wondered. Like that mean comment about Kendra. Was that her way of being funny? But then Mimi smiled, having a delayed reaction to the fact that Vanessa had called her pretty. Lamont thought she had star quality, and Vanessa de la Cruz, Miss Perfection, thought she was pretty. Life wasn't too bad. So why'd Lamont dump Kendra? Mimi asked. Who knows, Vanessa replied as the car pulled up to the Malia Mill shop. This was going to be their last shop. Mimi didn't know what kind of store it was until they walked in and she saw it was filled with bathing suits. What a sweetheart Lamont is turning out to be, she thought. Hooking me up with Lena, having me styled by Vanessa de la Cruz, buying me all this stuff. Vanessa held up a brightly striped bikini and noted her approval. Cute. Picking up on Vanessa's mantra of the day, Mimi jokingly agreed. It's a must-have. Okay, guys, that is the end of chapter 15. Killing Me Softly. Mimi had never been a big fan of hip-hop. That was the funny part. She knew the bigger names, had heard songs on the radio, and seen videos on MTV, of course. The music was inescapable, but she wasn't totally up on it. Hanging out with Lena changed all of that. Hip-hop was played at all of the parties they'd been going to, and Lena religiously listened to the Funk Master Flex radio mix show. On the rare occasions that Lena drove her Range Rover, she cranked whatever rap CD she purchased that week or a mix CD of hip-hop favorites that she burned. Usually they took car services, in which case Lena would make the driver tune to Blazin' 104, which played mostly hip-hop and R&B songs that had hip-hop remixes. The music was bass-heavy, explicit-filled, soundtrack of Lena's life, but Mimi didn't mind the overload. She was turning into a hip-hop head. Though unlike Lena, she didn't know every single word to every single song. Now here, she was at Grove Street Studios about to sing the hook on a record with Super Fat E. Lena had her listening to various rap song collabs all week, like she was in training for a prize fight. Fat E was one of Lena's favorites. You're lucky to get down with him, Lena had gushed. Everything he touches turns platinum. His flow is just bananas. Ivan, the studio engineer, poked his head into Studio A. You're still in here? Ivan waved for her to follow him, and she did. He opened the door to Studio B, and there was Daryl, sitting in the mixing board with the song playing at an ear-shattering level. Fat E said he'd be here by 9, Ivan said and disappeared. Sup, girl, Daryl said, lowering the volume a smidge. You've been in here all this time? I've been waiting for an hour in the other room. Yeah, he said, not looking up from the mixing board. I was just about to slide up in there, just finishing up the other song. He handed her a yellow piece of lined paper with some words scribbled on it. Your lyrics. Mimi looked at the chorus. It was 5 lines. The first, Gucci, Prada, Dolce, Gabbana. The last, I want to be a flyest bitch. She could make out the other 3 lines. Daryl's handwriting was so bad. It didn't matter what they said because she didn't like the last line at all. I want to be your fly ass bitch. B. You actually want me to say that? I guess so, Daryl answered crisply. I wrote it. He snatched the paper back, saying, we might change it, depending on Fat E's part. The ink was barely dry on her contract, but Daryl had already cultivated a strong dislike for her. His reasons were threefold. For one, she was a performer who eventually enjoyed more attention than he ever would as a behind-the-scenes producer. Secondly, she was poised to become Lamont's newest darling. And lastly, and most gravely, Mimi was tall and pretty. Too tall and too pretty. He couldn't front. She was a true dime piece. Just the kind of hottie who would never give him any PUSSY under any circumstances. Altogether, these observations made Daryl so mad, he felt like karate chopping a wooden block in one forceful blow. Hi-ya! But in the studio, he was the boss. On that point, they needed to be clear. Following Daryl into the studio, Mimi wondered why everything he said sounded like a threat. These lyrics were awful, but trying to press the issue would only anger him further. If Lena were here, she'd no doubt be saying that the lyrics were. How hot these lyrics were. The other songs they listened to had lines like that. She'd just have to cooperate and do her best. Anyway, it wasn't her song. It was Super Fat E's. And it wasn't going on her album. It was for his soundtrack. Her album was going to be completely different. As soon as Daryl settled in, she nervously pulled out her book and showed it to him. You wrote all of this? Daryl asked, noticing that all the pages were full. Yeah, Mimi said, teetering on the edge of the couch. I have five other books, but I recopied my favorite ones into this one. Swiveling back and forth in the chair in front of the mixing board, Daryl skimmed the lyrics of the first song, Like a Dream. Corny, he turned to the next page and checked out Soul Cry. Cornier. He read the chorus of On the Inside, and without looking at another page, decided it was one of the corniest of all songs she's written. You trying to be black you trying to be the black Celine Dion or something? No, Mimi snapped, wanting to grab the book back. Are these songs you really want to record for your album? Daryl asked, using his long pinky nail to satisfy an inch between his cornrows. Or you just showing me these because you want me to know you right? A little of both, Mimi said. He obviously didn't like the songs. I don't have to record those, but I definitely want to be a part of the writing process, you know? I want to be sort of a Lauryn Hill or an Erykah Badu. Really? Daryl said, trying not to let his face register surprise at this ridiculous bit of information. If he were a real a-hole, he wouldn't have given voice to his first reaction, which was, BITCH, you ain't no Lauryn Hill, and you ain't never gonna be, not on this label. If he were committed to his A&R job, he would have done his duty and diplomatically explained that the label has some slightly different ideas about what kind of artist she should be, which was more radio ready, supremely cross-marketable, J-Lo, and less soul-searching, average selling, Erykah Badu. He thought Lamont had gone over that with her. But what would Daryl know? Lamont never told him anything. Instead, he gave her a vague, "we'll see," and turned his back on her and got back into the music. Around 9, Ivan walked in and jovially announced, "Super Fat E is in the house." As Super Fat E bounded through the narrow studio doors, the literal meaning of his name became instantly clear. Super Fatty. Mimi realized her mouth was hanging open. She quickly shut it. She knew he was on the big side, but damn, in person he was stupendously large. He had to be over 300 pounds. Well over. He was wearing a plain white cotton undershirt that could have been used as a hammock for newborn triplets. Yellow sweatpants with white piping hung below his insanely bloated belly, and his plump, dimpled fists clenched a matching yellow jacket. Bouncing off his midsection at the end of a thick platinum chain was an enormous diamond E designed in such jagged script it looked like the work of Zorro. The combination of the yellow sweatsuit, Fat Farm, naturally, the jeweled initial bigger that the head of an average young child is crackling kinetic energy, made him seem like a cross between Big Bird and Superman. The only small things on Fat E was his feet. "What's poppin', y'all?" was Fat E's greeting. It felt like a whoosh of pure oxygen just followed him into the room. Fat E crowded Daryl, standing up from the board to give him the customary B-boy salute. They clasped hands, curled their bodies towards each other, and tapped shoulders, using their free hands to tap each other's back. Daryl was so small and Fat E so large. It looked like Daryl might disappear into Fat E's embrace, never to be seen again. "Country D," Fat E said. "How are you?" "Hype, Playboy," Daryl said, "ready to blaze this record." Mimi couldn't stop staring at Daryl. Mimi couldn't stop staring as he and Daryl ribbed against each other. She stood up and waited to be introduced. Daryl started up the music, obviously with no intention of introducing them, so Fat E took it upon himself. "Ernesto Moore," he said. He took her hand and kissed it. "You must be Mimi. Nice to meet you." He sank into the sofa and patted the small remaining space next to him. Mimi took a seat, and Fat E immediately swooped his arm around her. "So this is your first record?" "Yeah," she said, "and I'm really excited because I hear everything you touch turns platinum." "Believe what you heard." "I love your flow," Mimi added. "It's bananas." "Aw," Fat E swooned, soaking up the compliments. "That's right. Just stick with me, baby." "Sure," Fat E said, "soon as I write it." He looked up as Ivan strolled back into the room carrying a plastic folder. A wiry, shaggy-haired white guy, Ivan considered hip-hop a creative and powerful art form, and after working with all the big-name hip-hop artists, he no longer got a headache from breathing in marijuana fumes. He tossed the folder onto Fat E's lap. Fat E thanked Ivan, then turned to Mimi and said, "Now that we're all cozy and shit, let's order." Mimi looked over at the folder. Inside its transparent cover was a white sheet of paper that read, "Menus for Super Fat E. Please do not touch." Ivan had done that. People were always misplacing the menus, and a good selection of various cuisines that could be delivered in a timely fashion was the only request that Fat E had when it came to the studio. After mulling over several types of food, Fat E decided it was a seafood night and had the receptionist put in an order for 2 since Daryl and Ivan declined to join them for dinner. After close inspection, Mimi decided Ernesto was rather cute. He had smooth, clear skin, the color of wet sand, shortly, tightly curled brown hair, and sparse, elegantly sculpted goatee. She hoped he hadn't noticed her recoil slightly at his girth when he entered the room. "Hey, Ivan," Fat E said. "Throw me the pad." "Make magic, baby," Ivan said as he tossed Fat E his tools, a fresh yellow legal pad and a number 2 pencil, brand new, just sharpened. "Like Copperfield," Fat E replied. His first top 10 hit had been written this way, and ever since, he superstitiously followed the same routine to the letter. Within minutes, Fat E was completely lost in his rhyme writing. He was well respected by music critics as a true poet who wove intricate rhymes about the flight of the young urban male, only God can judge, on which he ruminated about growing up as a fat kid from his second album. Food is Love was considered to be his finest work to date. But like most music hip hop artists, he found a way for art and commerce to profitability coexist. He was concerned with selling records, and he knew people, especially the young kids who were his core audience, wanted to party more than they wanted to ponder. "Gotta pay the bills," he chirped when he came into a studio as a hired gun to guest star on another artist's album. That's what he was doing tonight. Triple Large was releasing the Good Looking soundtrack, and they were paying the hits INC Superstar his going rate of $150,000 per song to take part. Even if almost no one saw the movie, a soundtrack would sell briskly if it featured hot songs from a variety of well-known rappers. And Fat E was the biggest in every sense. An hour later, the receptionist buzzed over the intercom. "Dinner time." The food had an intoxicating effect on Fat E. The more he devoured, he moved from lobster to crab legs to a baked potato dripping with sour cream with the help of a DJ. The giddier and more talkative he became. Even though he rapped about his slick girl getting abilities and his sexual prowess with such tricks, he admitted the ladies' man status was just a part of his rap star image. His devoted wife, Renee, his angel, was the only woman he ever went home to. She loved him before the fame and riches. At Benjamin Franklin High School, she was proud to walk the halls with her overweight Ernesto, even though he had ballooned to 280 pounds by the senior prom. "She wants to have a baby," he said, "but I can't even knock her up. Something's wrong with my sperm," he shrugged. "We're going to a fertility doctor and everything." "Keep trying, Fat," Mimi said supportively. "She thinks it has to do with my weight. The doctor said it doesn't. He insisted. But she wants me to go on a diet anyway. She's worried about me getting so big. She tries to feed me all this low-calorie food. You know, what she taped on the fridge." He paused and cocked his head. "The article with the big headline that says, 'Obesity kills.' How fucked up is that?" Mimi smiled sympathetically. He signed. "I know she's probably right," he conceded, wiping his greasy palms with a paper towel. "But goddamn, I'm super fat eat. How am I going to get all skinny and still represent? You know what I'm saying?" "Yeah, I hear you," Mimi said, feeling very uncomfortable with Fat E. "But she only did that because she really cares. She got your back. And that's why I love her," Fat E said. He slouched down in the chair and exhaled, having finished his seafood workout. "So what about you?" "What about me? You got a man?" "Me? Nah." "Yeah, well, I don't know if there are many suitable fellas in the crowd you're running with, little lady," Fat E mocked. "Why?" "'Cause ninjas in the industry is all about gaming. I ain't about games. I got my lady. She's been down with a ninja since times was rough. You heard?" Mimi smiled, thinking, why can't I find a guy like Ernesto? "But you wouldn't believe how many women throw themselves at this here swole up ninja," Fat E said, thoroughly amused. even though they know I'm married, happily married. I don't understand females sometimes. I mean, why chase the ninja that every other chick wants? Why sign up for that kind of stress? I'm not saying you have to be with a lazy broke mofo, but what's wrong with the average hardworking brother who will take care of you and love you right? Your wife got both, Mimi said. But he posed a good question. Jamal had been a star quarterback in Toledo, and wasn't that what made him so attractive? That all the girls wanted him and she had him for a while? You heard, Fat E exclaimed, jumping up from his chair. Mimi was so startled that she almost slipped off of hers. He scooped her up in his arms like she was about to do curls and she was a barbell. But I'm one of a kind, baby, as she giggled. He carried her back to the studio, singing Back to Work We Go to the beat of Chapel of Love. After laying down his lyrics, Fat E was beyond tired and wanted to jet, but he stayed to encourage Mimi as she supplied her vocal contribution. On her ninth take, after singing the lines Daryl had written, Mimi wobbled some of her own creation. She'd been listening to Fat E rapping all night, and she had some complimentary, sorry guys, lyrics rattling around in her head. As soon as Daryl heard the unfamiliar words, he cut the music. What was that? His voice sounded loud and disapproving in her headphones. I don't know, Mimi said in her most apologetic voice. It just came out that way. Get out of here, Daryl shouted, and Mimi removed the headphones and walked out of the recording booth into the main studio room. Before Daryl could yell, she said, I thought we could try it. Don't think. Sing, Daryl snapped as Fat E wheezed half asleep on the couch. Hey, Ivan, maybe you should print out that up on one of your signs and put it in the booth, Daryl snickered. Don't think. Sing. You know, just a reminder. I don't like it your way, Mimi said boldly. This wasn't her song, so she probably shouldn't be trying to rewrite the lyrics. But this wasn't about the song. Daryl was trying to humiliate her. Lena's kill him with kindness strategy hasn't gotten Mimi anywhere, and she was just about sick of his jacked up attitude. Nobody asked you, Daryl said. He sat back in the chair and folded his arm, taking pleasure in reprimanding her. Mimi looked at Ivan. His expression seemed to be saying, leave it alone. But she didn't want to leave it alone. For years, she'd been singing the stupid songs Kenny wrote for her. And she had a book full of her own songs. Now, Daryl had hardly even looked at the songs in her book, deeming them crap. And he barely heard the lyrics she was trying out tonight before pulling his power play. Maybe we should ask Lamont, Mimi said without thinking. When she saw the immediate look of panic on Ivan's face, she wished she could have inhaled the words. Ivan knew that threatening to go to Lamont with any complaint about Daryl was asking a guy telling his girlfriend, yes, those jeans do make you look fat. It was an ultimate no-no. Daryl suddenly got up and walked toward the couch where Fat E was fidgeting in his sleep. Mimi and Ivan didn't know what he was about to do. They watched him grab the phone. Want to take it straight up to the top, huh? Daryl said, his usual sarcasm now sounding sinister. Good idea. You ain't never written a real song in your life. But why don't you call the boss and tell him you want to start today? He stabbed at the buttons. It's only 4 a.m. He never sleeps. He calls me all the time at this hour. I'm sure he'll love to chat. Mimi didn't think he was really calling Lamont. Was he? Right now? She only said that because she couldn't think of anything else to say. Daryl held out the receiver. It's ringing. Mimi rushed over to take the phone. She hung it up, turned, and walked back to the booth and do whatever Daryl wanted. And sorry, guys, there's some typos. Then Fat E sprang up on the couch. What's poppin'? He yelped, pawing his face and looking around like he didn't know where it was. That broke the tension in the room, and everyone, including Daryl, laughed. Mimi wants to rewrite the hook of your song, Daryl blurted out, assuming that Fat E would blow her off as a novice just as he done. Mimi was expecting Fat E to object as well. To her pleasant surprise, he said, "Great, let's hear what you got, baby." When she went back into the booth and sang her lyrics, Fat E, now wide awake and taking up much of Daryl's former terrain at the mixing board, complimented her through the headphones. I like it, he said. They played around with the hook for hours and wound up using a combination of Daryl's lines and hers. When they left at 8 a.m., Fat E put his arm around her, and even though she told him in her apartment was walking distance, he insisted on giving her a ride home. It's great that you can write, he told her as they strolled out into the street. That's how you make real paper. Rule number 1 in this biz, write your own songs and own your own publishing. Daryl followed them out, keeping quiet. He hadn't said much since Fat E went into command mode. Fat E was a hip-hop god, one that Daryl was not prepared to challenge. Mimi climbed into Fat E's black Hummer H2 and watched the guys joyfully embrace each other in farewell. But as Fat E went around to the driver's side, Daryl didn't seem to have any warm feelings left for her. Later was all Daryl said, and she saw a look in his eyes that told her there will be hell to pay for what happened tonight, and she be fitting the bill. Okay, guys, that is the end of chapter 16. Chapter 17, Thug Passion. I feel weird, Mimi said, shifting uncomfortably in the booth as Swirl. You haven't even had a drink yet, Vanessa replied, wondering where Lena was. No, down there, Mimi mumbled. Oh, your PUSSY feels weird? Mimi's face contorted into an expression of embarrassment. So what do you call it? Vanessa asked, amused. Not that, Mimi said quietly. Sweetie, how can you love your own PUSSY if you can't even say the word? Vanessa sighed, thinking the little chica had a lot to learn. My PUSSY is my best friend. I'm sure it is, Mimi said dryly. She had never thought about hers as something she should love or not love. It was just there. What do you think I should call it? Vagina, Vanessa said precisely, enunciating each syllable. Mimi tried not to smile but couldn't help it. I want you to say it, Vanessa insisted. What? You know what, Vanessa urged. It was fun to make Mimi squirm and so easy. My PUSSY feels weird, Mimi said very quickly and very quietly. Sorry she had ever brought it up. It was your first time, Vanessa said easily, looking around to see which bold-faced names were in attendance that night. You'll get used to it. After their first meeting, when she noticed unsightly whiskers sprouting out of the bikini Mimi was trying on, Vanessa had dragged her to Jay's sisters for a Brazilian wax. Not a Brazilian for which the Jay sisters had become famous. There was even an autographed photo of Gwyneth Paltrow in their salon on which the star had written, "Thanks for changing my life." Vanessa said she was getting a modified Brazilian, a down below baldy, which left a strip of hair visible up top. She let Mimi come into the small room to watch her getting all prettied up, after which Mimi was so grossed out she refused to go next. But Vanessa browbeat her little follower into submission. Mimi screamed with pain when hair was ripped away. She was flipped over. Her legs were twisted like a pretzel. She felt like she was in the throes of her childbirth. Vanessa held her hand, acting like the bikini wax Lamaze coach. Now that you've gone bare, you'll never go back, Vanessa had assured her. Afterward, guys love it. Now all Mimi had to do was find a guy. Please don't tell me you're a virgin, Vanessa said, thinking it was a definite possibility. Not at all, Mimi exclaimed defensively. High school boys. Ugh, Vanessa sniffed. Vanessa sniffed a lot. It was like an open carton of rancid milk followed her everywhere. Some, Mimi said, her voice full of false confidence. My last boyfriend is a quarterback at Georgia State, she added, though. Last implied there had been others, and really Jamal was her first and only boyfriend. He got a football scholarship. Really, Vanessa was intrigued by celebrity, even at the college level. You think he'll go pro? I don't care, Mimi sniffled, like Vanessa was always doing. It's over with us. She was relieved to see Lena heading toward their table because she did not want to get into a discussion about the jackass Jamal. With her frayed 7 for all mankind denim mini, Lena had on a fitted gray t-shirt with a color photo for a very young Grandmaster Flash bending over a turntable with the words, "Yes, yes, y'all," written underneath the bubble letters. Her red and white 1988 high-top Air Jordans were purchased at Premium Goods in Brooklyn, a store that trafficked the hard-to-find classic kicks. The price for such footwear began at $300. She was out in BK. She had a 4-finger gold ring that spelled Lena, made. A picture of column mention of Lena's having the old school moment would no doubt wind up in some magazine, and she was no doubt whine about how annoying it was that everyone else would then bite her style. But truth was, that was the very reason she'd gone through all the trouble. From her shoulder, she pulled down a little 80s ghetto blaster. She had gotten it on eBay, put it on the table, and turned around. Look what crazy got me. It looked like she had a Vaseline smeared all over her lower back. Mimi leaned in, and Vanessa picked up the votive candle on the table for illumination. Underneath the ointment, they could make out the word crazy, a few inches above Lena's ass, in inch-high Gothic letters. Mimi and Vanessa exchanged horrifying glances. Oh, girl, you tripping, Mimi whooped. Loca is right, Vanessa cried, about the tattoo and the outfit. She would never consider getting a tattoo anywhere on her body. Why would she tamper with perfection? Hush, Lena said gaily. You know it's hot. So it's official, I guess, Mimi murmured. She hadn't seen Lena in a week because Crazy G was in town. Mimi was concerned because Lena told her she'd flown him in, which Mimi took to mean she paid for the plane ticket. And since she couldn't have guys stay at her huge place, the housekeeper would report it back to her father. They'd been told to hold up in the W Hotel on Union Square, doing the nasty nonstop. Mimi was sure Lena had paid for the room. Yes, Lena swooned, in too much of a tizzy to catch Mimi's disapproving tone. We're in love. Did he get a tattoo with your name? Vanessa ventured. No, but I got him a necklace from Jacobs, Lena said, as if accepting an expensive gift from her was somehow an expression of his love. Though she was still trying to cut down on the boozing, she ordered a shot of tequila. She was happy she had to celebrate. She just had to have one or two. Oh, from Jacobs? You really ballin' now, Vanessa droned drastically. She thought the trinkets that all the rappers bought from the Diamond District gem merchant, known as Jacob the Jeweler, were ridiculously tacky. Alonzo had explicit instructions never to buy her anything there. Ballin' for real, Lena carped back, revealing in the fun of offending Vanessa. 50 G's. Mimi was lost. Who was Jacob? You spent $50,000 on that nobody, Vanessa wailed, truly concerned now. Lena felt like she'd been slapped. Vanessa was calling her ninja a nobody. He was on the verge of being signed by a major label, and she was going to be right there by his side when it happened. He's a great lyricist, Nessa, Lena explained, pulling on her gold door knocker earrings, which she could tell were already infecting her holes. He's about to blow up. Kaboom. And you can't get much of 50 G's. It was tiny. You can't get much for 50 G's. It was tiny. The waitress brought the tequila shot, and Lena took it from her hand and knocked it back without even letting the glass touch the table. Wait, back it up, Mimi interjected. You spent $50,000 on a necklace for Crazy G? Lena shrugged as if it was nothing. What's your father gonna say? Mimi said in a grave whisper. Vanessa had told her that Lena's father was some big-time lawyer, and he despised rappers and purveyors of rap music like Lamont. Most of all, he hated that his Park Avenue rear daughter was so obsessed with all three. Mimi wondered what he'd think if he learned Lena was dating a thuggish rapper named Crazy G, who practically had a bottle of Hennessy glued to his hand. He won't know, Lena said in her best I can do whatever the fuck I want voice. Daddy's accountant will notice, but I'll just tell him Jacob is a clothing store. Mimi smelled the distinct odor of trouble, but she decided to leave it alone. Mustafa returned to the table from the bar, where he had been chatting up a friend. He sat next to Vanessa, who immediately announced, Lena's gone loca. Mustafa wasn't sure why this was news. Wasn't she always? Lena hefted her butt onto the table and peeled back the waist of her mini so he could get a good look. It's still healing. He leaned close, inspected the tattoo, and threw his hands in the air erratically. Oh, baby, he squealed. It's so hot. Lena scooted off the table, turned on her boombox, which started blasting LL Cool J's Rock the Bells, pulled her fuzzy red candle down low, and busted out doing the WAP until everybody lapsed into hysterics. Okay, guys, that is the end of chapter 17. So we will start again on chapter 18. I am loving how they're starting to build the characters. I am really starting to see who the main characters are. I am liking it so far, and I really think it's going to start to pick up. So please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel so you can be alerted when we drop a new Bling video. I appreciate you guys for listening. Thank you for bearing with me. I am seeing some typos here, so sometimes it's kind of hard for me to kind of maneuver through the words because there are some major typos here. But nonetheless, it is a great book so far. I'm loving reading it. I'm loving getting used to Mimi. Vanessa was giving me, I don't know what Vanessa was giving me, like a person that I can think of in real life who was like a model. Like she can even kind of give like Kim Porter vibes. Like she was married to someone who had a lot of money, you know, she had a kid with him. I don't know. But nonetheless, guys, it is getting good. Thank you guys for listening. Don't forget to subscribe, like the video, please. If you are listening to the content, it does help me grow. Apologies for stumbling over some words. Don't come at me in the comments. I love y'all. I will speak to you guys on the next video. Bye.
Drink, fuck it up, talk it up. Drink in my cup, pour it up. You heard it first. Let's quench your thirst. Ooh, mama, it's cocktail hour, so rack 'em up. Ooh, mama, it's cocktail hour, so pour it up.